Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, the eve to the weekend. Wanted to come to you today. I know that those of you who are on our email list, by the way, if you're not on our email list, you need to get on our email list. Richard has been sending you guys information about this thing that's called the West Coast Wall. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It's called the West Coast Wall of gun control. And I know some of you out there are like, well, what's the West Coast Wall? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's what we're going to talk about today. What is the West Coast Wall of gun control? Now, we've been talking about this ever since the summertime. It's this basically this effort that has started here in California. It was basically started with a number of the Gunmageddon and Gunpocalypse bills that were passed, that were rushed through the California legislature last spring and eventually signed by the governor on July 1st. Well, after that, a number of other states have decided, or leaders, anti-gun leaders in other states have decided they want to do the same exact thing in their states. In fact, it was a term that was phrased by Washington Ceasefire Board President Ralph Fasiletti. And basically the term that he said he wanted to have this West Coast wall of gun control, that they basically wanted to do things like limit ammunition, or as they said, ammunition clips. We know they're not clips, but to limit basically assault weapons, or to restrict assault weapons, as well as limit magazine capacity. Now, we already know that in those two states, they have very firm allies. First of all, you have in Oregon, you have the governor who was not reelected, but who was appointed because the previous governor had some, how shall we say, ethical issues. So she was appointed, and then she had to run in order to fill the vacancy. She's made a strong commitment to introduce and to encourage others to introduce legislation, once again, to ban guns and restrict the rights of law-abiding gun owners. And then in the state of Washington, you have Attorney General Bob Ferguson, who put out a press release just a little over a week ago introducing legislation that he planned to sponsor that would once again limit gun control. Now mind you, Oregon had already passed background checks. And Washington recently passed an initiative that dealing with gun violence restraining orders, which basically allows individuals to have their gun rights taken away with little to no due process. So understand that these are the things that are actually happening. And now what we're starting to see is that legislation actually being introduced. And if you don't believe that it's an opportunity that they're using this to expand California-style gun control into Washington, I want to encourage you, go to Stop the Gun Wall. Go to Stop the Gun Wall and go there, and you can check and see. And on that page, we actually have kind of a breakdown of all of the legislation that currently exists in California, and then what's being proposed in Washington and what's being proposed in Oregon. And you'll notice just about everything that exists in California, with very few exceptions, either already exist in Washington and Oregon, or have been introduced or are being proposed in Washington and Oregon. And for those of you who think that it stops there, there are also measures that are being introduced in New Mexico and in Arizona. And I know you folks in New Mexico and Arizona are saying, yeah, right, fat chance. But trust me, these guys are investing a lot of money in public research, in research. So they're actually going and they're polling, and they're looking to find out what ideas have some play. And if they're introducing the legislation in those states, it means that there is at least a significant number of people within that state who would be willing to support that type of gun restriction. So it's important for us to know that, because, you know, those of you in New Mexico and in Arizona, you guys have a great opportunity to try and nip this stuff in the bud before it even pops its head up. But those in Washington and Oregon, we are in the middle of the fight, right? The fight is now. It's taking place right now as we speak. The Nevada legislature, one of the leaders of one of the legislative houses has made it clear that, one of his top priorities is background checks. Now, I don't know, in light of what happened with question 1, I don't know exactly what they're going to be able to do, but you can bet that they want to try and save face and see that some sort of gun control or gun restrictions are put in place there, just so that, once again, they can save face there in Nevada. So anyway, that is the West Coast Wall. So when we're talking to you about help fight the West Coast Wall, that's what we're talking about. And to those of you who are not in California, or those of you who are not in one of those states, let me tell you, the reason why the fight is important is because if they're successful here, like in many cases they've been successful in California on a lot of these things, it will expand. If they're successful in Washington and Oregon, trust me, it will. Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico will be next. And other states, those of you who live in what I'll call free states, trust me, it will be coming to you if you're not willing to stand up and help us fight on the front lines. So anyway, that's what's going on. That is what the West Coast Wall is. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to support us and support fighting the West Coast Wall of gun control. All right, so let's see what you folks are talking about on this fine Friday morning. Democrat majority will not listen to reason or comment, period. I guess here's where I'll disagree with you, in that in many cases, a lot of these Democrats are elected in marginal districts, meaning they need Republican votes in order to win as well, or at the very least, they need the vote of independents and some conservative Democrats. So it's important that we reach out to them and talk to them and that we lobby, because those individuals recognize that their reelection is on the line. So, I put it to you this way. In California, we had about I think it was 4 to 6 members of the Democratic members who actually had A ratings on the Second Amendment, and every single one of them got reelected. So it's important to note that they're out there. There are some folks who will be good on our issue. We just have to make sure that we're reaching out to them and we're actually providing them with the information. The other thing that I found in talking with a lot of members is they're not getting all of the information from their caucuses. They're not getting all of the information. They're getting information from Everytown, from Brady, but they're not getting, it's important that we make sure that they have our information, that they understand what's going on and some of the logic behind some of these issues. So it's important that we do talk to Democrats. I realize not all of them are going to listen. I get that, but there are some who will. Life behind enemy lines. Yes, Dennis, that is, we are in the belly of the beast. We are definitely behind enemy lines. It doesn't matter how onerous they try to be. It will only strengthen my resolve to fight for what is right for America. Yes, and that's the thing. We need to, once again, being behind enemy lines, it's important that we continue the fight. Because if we surrender and we retreat, well, all that happens is the front lines change, right? We wind up, if we just give up and say, fine, I'm leaving California, or we say, fine, I'm leaving Oregon, or I'm leaving Washington, well, then they'll take those states, and then they'll be on to the next state, and the next state, and the next. So if we're, kind of like, it's kind of like the Bush doctrine when it came to the war on terror. As long as we were fighting over there, it was a lot less likely we were going to have to fight over here. Just saying. Where are we at here? Once they kill the second, they'll go after the first. That is true. Look, not only are they doing that, because in some cases they realize that people don't like the second, they're actually trying to eliminate our free speech rights to the first. You heard about the kid who got suspended from school for wearing an NRA t-shirt. Didn't have any guns on it, just had the NRA on it. You've heard about, well, here in California, certain billboards, if they're facing the freeway, you're not allowed to advertise firearms on them. In the state of California, you're not allowed to have a picture of a handgun on the outside of your gun store. They are trying to restrict our right to even talk about the Second Amendment. So, once again, if they take away the Second Amendment, then all of the rest of the rights become a lot easier to take away. Democrats already writing sanctuary Sanctuary State Legislature. I don't know what that means. Let's see here. Awesome shirt. Yes, thank you. You can get this at FPC Gear. Go to FPC Gear. Once you click out of this video, you'll be able to see it. It's right there at the top. Go to FPC Gear. Get your Don't Tread on Me t-shirt. Yes, shameless plug. But there's tons of other really cool t-shirts and gear and stuff like there. You can go there and pick up and purchase. Where are we at here? If we aren't careful, it will spread. Yes, that's from David. Yes, you're right. If you're not careful, it will spread. Liberalism it's a disease. It's like a virus. It destroys wherever it's at, and once it's done destroying that, once they realize, wow, this place is not a great place to live anymore. Hey, let's go over there. It looks nice. They have jobs. They have freedom. They have liberty. They have good schools. Let's go over there. Then they go over there, and then you say, well, gee, we want to institute our policies here so we'll feel comfortable like we did back there. And then they wonder why the new place that they're at goes to hell. It's not a mystery, folks, at least to those of us who get it. Where are we at here? I heard David Hernandez, who is running for LA mayor, is pro-gun. Your thoughts? I do not know David Hernandez. I do not know if he is pro-gun, but that would definitely be something worth finding out. Hey, those of you out there who are in the city of Los Angeles, if you know Mr. Hernandez or know of Mr. Hernandez, hey, whatever information you got, post it here. Post it right there in the thread. Let us know about him if he is in fact pro-gun. Definitely might not be a bad idea to support someone who, actually believes in civil rights. Do you think lawsuits from other states could help California? Yes, not so much lawsuits regarding California laws, but here's the thing: as someone sues on an issue, right? It moves its way up through the court system. Hopefully, as it moves its way up through the court system, eventually getting to the Supreme Court at that point, or it becomes precedent. Then that is something that can eventually help all of the country. So, do I believe that lawsuits in other states help California? Well, let's put it this way: Heller was not in the state of California. That was in Washington, D.C. McDonald was not in the state of California. That was in Illinois. So, yes, lawsuits in other states can, in fact, help us here in California. Okay, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. You folks have a fun and fantastic weekend. Hopefully you'll get a chance to get out there and play with some of your favorite toys. I know I will. Anyway, folks, take care, and you guys have a good weekend. See you Monday.
If you like these updates, please share them with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel.